No, wake up, South Africa, wake up. We are currently going through a crisis. And if you are asleep, you need to wake up and you need to open your eyes and you need to open your ears and you need to be tuned into this podcast because we are talking about a current crisis that has been grappling our country. There is a food poisoning crisis in the country, and it is particularly affecting school going children who have consumed contaminated snacks and meals from school feeding schemes. This has sparked some panic and concern, and it has brought to light vulnerabilities in our food safety system. Now, the question is this really food poisoning or there's something more going on? Let's talk about it.
Get rid of your Monday business blues and be business savvy by joining the Market Savvy crew. New episodes drop every Monday at 12 midday. Subscribe now and don't delay. Get tips, trends, and increase your net worth by subscribing to our mailing list. Visit www.kbonoko.com and let your ambitions fuel your every move.
Welcome to the Market Savvy podcast, where we dive into the world of business. And today we are talking about a critical issue that's affecting South African townships and rural areas. The crisis is food poisoning. I'm going to be touching on what the government has said about the current issue and what you can do as a small business to mitigate the risks of making sure that you don't lose your business due to this crisis. I believe this current crisis is very alarming and it's urgent, and it's something that I believe by now the government needs to be vigilant. We don't need to be seeing people going into these stores checking expired foods because this thing is this is something they needed to have done a long time ago. This is not the first incident. In Katlehong alone, we've had 110 kids who were admitted in hospital. 98 were discharged, 2 had passed away, and there's probably a lot more behind the scenes that we do not know about. However, Mina, this is what my assumption is. We are currently going through a chemical warfare as a country. And let's first understand what a chemical warfare is. A chemical warfare involves the use of toxic chemicals to cause harm or death to humans, animals, and plants. These chemicals can be used in various ways, including through bombs, sprays, even contaminated food and water supplies. And in the context of food poisoning, chemical warfare takes on a more vicious form. It's not about military conflict, but it is about a deliberate or accidental contamination of food supplies, which leads to illnesses and, in severe cases, death. This is precisely what we are seeing in parts of South Africa, where school-going children have become victims of this horrific situation. And yes, the SABC and the public broadcasters have been covering the stories, and reports are coming through that school children are falling ill, and some of them have died after eating or consuming snacks and meals provided through the school feeding scheme. This has spread some panic, and it has definitely brought to light the fact that in South Africa, we are not only vulnerable when it comes to the border gates, crime, drugs. We are also vulnerable when it comes to food safety and security, especially in the townships and rural areas. And I'm saying townships and rural areas because so far, we've never heard of cases happening in Bryanston. We've never heard of cases happening in Fourways. All of these cases are happening in the townships. What is it about the townships that makes us so susceptible to such? All right. I'm going to let you ponder on the thought of what is it exactly about the township? Why is everything happening in the township? Inyaupe, it's in the township. And yes, there is drugs in the burbs. You do have your cats, you do have your cocaine, but the worst forms of drugs, you will find them where? In the townships, in the rural areas. So everything that is like not make sure you will find in the township. I don't know why. Anyways, moving on. There has been a spotlight on foreign owned spaza shops, and they've been on the spotlight for quite some time. I don't think the government acted swiftly enough from the first incident. From the first incident, uh, by now we needed to have like a clear answer and resolution as to what is going on in the country. Yes, people will say no, but it is you South Africans who are defending them, who are saying no, they are renting in my yard, I've got an income, wara wara wara. Yes, I hear all of that and I agree to a degree. However, while these shops are playing a crucial role in providing essential goods and services, there have been allegations and concerns about the safety and quality of the food products they sell to us. There has been questions about regulation oversight and the need for stricter controls to protect consumers. So, what can be done to mitigate the crisis and prevent further deaths? Because we can't avoid the fact that people are dying, especially children. Children are dying. This is why I'm saying this is a chemical warfare, and it is my opinion. You can have your own opinion, but this is my opinion. This is happening in the township. This is affecting black people in particular in the townships. And yes, I don't want people coming to me and saying, yeah, but you're fear mongering and you're scaring us. If you're not scared by the fact that children are dying, then I don't know why you're not scared, because you should be scared, especially if it's young children that are supposed to be leading happy lives. Their lives are being cut short, and people will say, yeah, but it's their time. No, it wasn't their time. Those are children who are supposed to be enjoying being children. Those are children who ate from the school feeding scheme. Those are children who bought snacks innocently. And let me just play the devil's advocate. I believe someone, somewhere, is sabotaging the small business sector, including the informal, not the info, yes, the informal sector of these mamas who are selling snacks to children, because these mamas are cutting the big guys short. They are going to stock at these wholesalers where they are getting these snacks that they are selling. Do you know how much money the informal sector is making on a daily? All right. Fast forward. The question is, what can be done to prevent further deaths? I believe that the South African government has a critical role to play in strengthening food safety regulations, improving inspections, and enforcement mechanisms to ensure that those responsible for the contamination are held accountable. And I don't believe what they are doing is enough. Showing up on my TV screen telling me that, yeah, we are busy with tests, we are running tests, is not enough, because when the first few incidents happened, the government, especially the Department of Health, they came and they said they have identified an organophosphate as a chemical agent that is responsible for the recent food poisoning incidents that led to the death of 6 children in Soweto. 6 children died in Soweto alone, and you're saying you identified this as a chemical, some agricultural chemical. Okay, now the question is, if this is the chemical that is responsible for the death of these children, which farmers are using this chemical? And which quality controls were in place by the manufacturers? Because when you're manufacturing food, you need to quality assure. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. When you sell someone a quarter, you don't just pasha and put in your chips and your bologna and your cheese. No, you dedicate time. You peel the potato, you wash the potato. You even know where you get your potato. You know where you get your bread. You know where you get your sauce. So what quality controls were there, and why are those companies that are using that chemical not being called to come forward to give us a statement as to what are their quality controls and where are their products? Are they in ShopRite? Are they in Pick and Pay? Are they in Macro? Where are they? We need answers. Whether they're in foreign owned tax shops, we need answers. I'll tell you exactly what the different departments of government have said about this issue, because I understand it's very hard to keep up with everyone at the current stage. But number one, the Department of Health attributed the food poisoning to a chemical that is used in agriculture in the first incident. Then it was a red poison that was found in some stores because they needed to take care of the rats, right? Now, this is exactly what the Department of Health has said. They, in their recent statement, they have emphasized the importance of strict food safety regulations and the need for immediate action to address the crisis. The department highlighted the importance of enhanced food safety inspections, meaning they needed to be increased increased frequency in the thoroughness of food safety inspection of all food outlets. That means now we're loading there needs to be some food inspection that is going on at your business, right? And your retailer. They've also spoke about public awareness and campaigns. They mentioned launching campaigns to educate the public about food safety and hygienic practices. They've also spoken about the collaboration with other departments, whereby they'll be working closely with the Department of Education and Trade and Industry to ensure a coordinated response of some sort. But now my question is, all of these things that the Department of Health is talking about, the inspections, the trainings, the campaigns, they are not timeline bound. We need timelines. Time is ticking. People are dying. Children are dying. Black children in particular are dying in the townships and rural areas. And this is not a race thing. This is not a race thing, but I do believe this is a class thing. If you are poor, uzozithola kulama situation anje. Because where else in the burbs are you going to get a packet of chips that is worth R1? Yeah, understand. But anyways, moving on. The Department of Education has also weighed in, focusing on the safety of school feeding schemes. They've outlined some measures, including training for staff. People need to be trained on how to prepare food and ensure meals are prepared and served safely. Let's not forget that there are children in the townships and rural areas that only get ukudla at the school. How are we mitigating that situation? Because it is a crisis that's currently happening. Just 2 days ago, children in Katlehong consumed SAMP from one school. In another school, you can go check it out on SABC right here on YouTube. In another school, I think in Togoza, if I'm not mistaken, children consumed rice and liver. So we are not sure where the food poisoning is coming from, especially where the school feeding scheme is concerned. Who is supplying the schools with food? All right. The Department of Education also talks about conducting regular audits of school feeding schemes to ensure compliance with food safety standards. Yet again, you're talking about something long term. What are you doing in the current moment to address this situation? And if you are working in the Department of Education, in the Department of Health, and you're listening to this podcast, please, I beg you, Sunday, can you please comment in the comment section on this podcast and tell us exactly what are you doing so that we do not panic, right? You guys have also spoken about partnerships with the Department of Health, which I really commend you on that, because we've seen you collaborating with the health departments to monitor and respond to the incidences. I mean, if 110 kids were admitted in a hospital and the next day 98 were discharged, I'm happy about that, because it means you are really working and you made sure that they were ready to go home. You monitored the situation, which I commend you on. However, we still need answers as to what are you currently doing right now. Okay. Now, the Department of Trade and Industry has stressed the importance of supporting local food producers and ensuring that all food outlets and retailers adhere to strict safety standards. The safety standards, they also promote the fact that there's going to be regulatory and compliance services whereby there'll be strengthening regulations and enforcing and enforcement rather to ensure that all food businesses comply with food safety laws. They've also spoken about capacity building whereby they are offering training and resources to food outlets and retailers on best practices for food safety and hygiene. And lastly, they spoke about providing financial and technical support to local food producers to help them meet the safety standards. Yet again, you are talking about long term. I mean, something that is as basic as a 350 grant. There are people that still don't receive the 350 grant, even though they're in much need of it, because whoever is responsible for making sure that this money gets to the needy is taking their sweet time, and they're coming up with all sorts of red tape to ensure that it does not get to where it needs to get. Yeah, understand? There's a lot of red tape. Whew, don't get me started on the red tape government. But let me not go there. I just want to know that if you work in a government department, can you please kindly share in the comment box what is happening? What are you currently working on to help us mitigate the situation? All right. Now, before I get to what retailers and food outlets or businesses can do to mitigate the situation, I want us to talk about what could happen if this crisis is not handled effectively. So, if this crisis is not handled effectively, small businesses, particularly in the rural areas and in the townships, you are going to experience financial losses and recalls. And I'm not being a prophet, I'm just merely sharing what had happened before. The reason I'm thinking about recalls right now, I remember a time when we couldn't consume ipaloni, or what the Burbs call polony. We couldn't consume paloni, whether in a burger or in a sandwich or whatever, because there was a crisis of listeriosis in the country, and there was meat recalls which have shown to cause significant financial damage to companies involved. Remember, when there's a recall happening, you have to take the product to wherever you bought it, and then the people that stocked that particular product, they have to take it back to the people where they got it from. So it's like a long chain of supply chain that has to happen. So that on its own has cost implications, right? The next thing that is going to definitely affect you is having to remove the products from your shelves. So the estimated cost of food safety incidents in South Africa is substantial, which includes the expenses of notifying consumers and removing contaminated food from shelves. So imagine the number of SMSs that you need to be sending out to your consumers to let them know, no, please bring back this item to my store and get your money back, or whatever reason you will tell them to bring back the product, right? This can be a significant burden to you as a small business, and especially if you operate in the township, right? The next thing that is definitely going to happen is damage to your reputation. Food safety incidents can severely damage your business reputation, which will lead to a loss of customer trust and a decline in sales. People are most likely to avoid buying anything associated with your business, especially if a food poisoning outbreak came from you. Even after the crisis is resolved, this can be particularly devastating for local food producers and spaza shops rather, that heavily rely on community support. The next thing that's going to happen if this thing is not dealt with, you're going to experience penalties and lawsuits. And this is the last thing you need as a small business. This can be costly and can lead to additional regulatory scrutiny and oversight by government. For instance, there's a current lawsuit that's happening against Pfizer. They have the Depo-Vera injection. If you are female and you are preventing, you probably have heard it before. There's a current lawsuit that's happening against Pfizer because their 3 months injection Depo-Vera has been proven to create brain cancer. Yeah. So now where you could find yourself in a situation where people are suing you for the death of their family members or for their health care costs for their family members due to food poisoning that came through your business. So this can be costly and can also lead to additional regulatory scrutiny and oversight. Yeah, understand? Sure. So, also, you're going to experience operational disruptions whereby you need to stop production because inspections need to happen, and you also need to implement new safety protocols. These disruptions can lead to a temporary closure and loss of business, which can be particularly challenging for small businesses that operate on tight margins, like in the townships. So, to prevent future incidences, businesses may need to invest in more rigorous quality control measures, employee training, and compliance with stricter regulations. And this means more costs. And this can strain the financial resource of your food outlets or retailer, especially in the township and rural areas where resources may be very limited. So, this will definitely have an impact also on supply chains. Food poisoning outbreaks can disrupt supply chains, leading to delays in product delivery and increased costs for sourcing and logistics. This can further make the situation worse by financial losses, particularly for businesses that rely on local suppliers and distribution networks. So, yeah, there's a lot at stake. Although it doesn't seem like it, there is a lot at stake, especially for businesses in the township. So, failing to address the food poisoning crisis effectively can lead to substantial losses, reputational damage, legal penalties, operational disruptions, increased costs for prevention and compliance. And all of these collectively have a severe negative impact on the economic viability of your business as a food provider or retailer. All right, so I've spoken about what could happen economically to your business if this thing is not dealt with as quickly as possible. Now, let's talk about what you can do as a food outlet, food service provider, or retailer to prevent this crisis while you stay in business. The first thing that you need to do is, it's not new, it's something that we've been practicing since the COVID days, and some of us have been doing it for quite a long time. This is making sure that you follow strict hygiene practices, including regular hand washing and the use of clean utensils and surfaces. And because you're trying to stay in business, I'm pretty sure that bleach and Dettol, all these products, their sales are going to go up, especially from business owners. All right. Number two, we need to ensure that a regular food safety training is conducted. So, if it means that your employees need to come in a little bit early for you to just quickly do a food safety training before they start work, then that's exactly what you should do. Provide regular training for your staff to ensure that hygiene practices are adhered to and you guys are up to date with the latest guidelines. And number three, you need to do quality control. Make sure that all food products are safe for consumption. And I believe that most food outlets, they do follow that. I don't remember uh, getting something snacks in my quota or in my takeaway. Most of them, they are really doing a good job when it comes to ensuring that the food they serve is clean. But quality control also ensures knowing where your products come from. For instance, if you use cheese, know it's which batch, from which brand, and how do you contact that brand should anything happen. Something such as food poisoning happen as a result of someone consuming your food. Also, one of the things that are very important for you to bear in mind, you need to be transparent and have an open line of communication where you are transparent to your customers and consumers about where your food sources come from and your safety practices as well. Communicate promptly in the event that you experience any issues. You need to know where you get your products and how to contact them, should you be in a position where you need to contact them. Do not just quickly go to, I am going to refund you for the money you spent without dealing with the core of the problem. Otherwise, how many more people are you going to have to refund should there be an issue? Yeah, but so be transparent with your customers about food sources and food safety. Open that line of communication, because it also allows you the ability to be trusted by your customers, which you're not taking them for a ride and you're not being selfish. Also, don't deprive yourself of the opportunity to work closely with government authorities to comply with food safeties and regulations. Also, make sure that you participate in any investigations or responses to food poisoning incidences. All right. So, to wrap it up, the crisis, or the food crisis rather, in the country, especially in townships and rural areas, is very complex, and it requires us to act with agility and as quickly as possible. By working together, government departments, food outlets, retailers, and communities, we can ensure the safety of our food supplies and protect the health of our citizens. Yabo. So, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to hear from you. What do you think needs to be done to address this crisis, and how can we better protect our communities from the dangers of food poisoning or chemical warfare, as I call it? So, share your thoughts and join the conversation on the comment section. Thank you for joining the Market Savvy podcast, and I'm your host, Kate Jesus. Remember, knowledge is power, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, stay informed and stay safe. Ciao.
Get rid of your Monday business blues and be business savvy by joining the Market Savvy crew. New episodes drop every Monday at 12 midday. Subscribe now and don't delay. Get tips, trends, and increase your net worth by subscribing to our mailing list. Visit www.kbonoko.com and let your ambitions fuel your every move.